Hello BookTube. For this Tag Tuesday, I'm going to be doing the H tag. This tag was created by Jim of Jim's Books, Reading, and Stuff, and this is the continuation of his alphabet tag series. Let's get started. Oh, and he did tag me since my last name begins with H. H is for Harry Potter. Would you prefer to travel to Hogwarts in a flying car or on the Hogwarts Express? Now, I've flown in a plane before, so it's nothing really all that new. I've never taken an extended train trip before. I've ridden on like a light rail or the train systems that are in like urban areas. I've taken whatever it is in Portland from the airport to downtown Portland and back when I was up there more than 10 years ago. Well, closer to 15 now, but anyway. And when I was in San Francisco, I took the subway train system and the BART. But I've never taken a long intrastate or interstate or cross-country train ride before, or even a scenic train journey, which I would love to go on, but especially across like Britain, or well, Britain and from England to Scotland. Now, would I want to take that train journey to Hogwarts? No, I would not. I wouldn't want to go to Hogwarts. He'd want to go to Hogwarts. I hate Harry Potter. So, to refresh my history with Harry Potter, I tried the Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire when I was 23, 24, give or take. No, would have been earlier. Would have been 21 or 22. At the time, I was a member of the Science Fiction Book Club, and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire was one of the books on offer. So I picked it up, tried it, bailed on it within the first chapter, and then a few years ago, maybe 2015, 2016, I had the urge to try Harry Potter again because it is an important work of fantasy literature, like it or not. So I picked up Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, well, Sorcerer's Stone here in the United States, but I much prefer Philosopher's Stone, and Chamber of Secrets from Golden's Book Exchange. And I tried Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and I bailed within a chapter. I hate the narrative tone of this story. It is so infuriatingly condescending. It makes my blood boil how condescending the narrator's tone is. So I bailed, and I've never gone back to it, and I have no interest to go back, honestly. I've often thought, though, if I'd gotten to Harry Potter when they first came out, when I would have been 13, 14, if I would have liked it better. And I don't know. Because my reaction to Harry Potter in my early 30s was the one I had in my early 20s, and I'm pretty sure I would have resented and been infuriated by that condescending narrative tone that Rowling uses for her story. And I hate that. I've always really hated it. Now, maybe if I were younger, if say I was 10, 15 years younger, and coming to Harry Potter when I was, like, say, 8, 9, 10, I might not be as annoyed, like frustrated and well, I don't know quite what the right word is, but just having as strongly a negative reaction that I do have to Harry Potter. Because I do remember liking James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl. And I think that book has this very similar tone. But it's been it's been like 30 years since I've actually read it, so I haven't read it since. So I don't know the exact tone, but maybe if I were 10 years younger and experienced Harry Potter before I was 10, I might have a much different opinion as I would have grown up with Harry Potter. But as it stands, I can't stand Harry Potter. Next question. H is for horror. Why do kids love horror? Or here you could add your favorite horror titles. I'm not entirely sure if kids like horror or not. I didn't like horror when I was a kid. And I don't think the 4 Children of the Apocalypse particularly do like horror either. And the 4 Children of the Apocalypse are my 2 nieces and 2 nephews. And as for favorite horror titles, I would say probably The Devil Rides Out by Dennis Wheatley. I quite liked. Although the movie's better. Christine by Stephen King. The movie's significantly better for a number of reasons. I want to say that's probably it. I'm not much of a horror fan, personally. Oh, House. This 1970s Japanese horror film. I think it's a hoot. Next prompt. H is for Hemingway. Hemingway or Fitzgerald. A pox on both of them, but I'd go with Fitzgerald. I think I've read a bit of Hemingway and Fitzgerald in like an American Lit class, but I've never really read them all that much, besides maybe a story or two. But of the two, I think I liked Fitzgerald's work a bit more than I did Hemingway. H is for hardback. Do you prefer hardbacks or paperbacks? I like both. Paperbacks are a bit more convenient in a number of ways, except in that they are not terribly sturdy. Although I am pretty careful with my books, so I don't damage them too much. But, I like both. H is for Hardy. Which is your favorite Thomas Hardy novel? I've never read Thomas Hardy, so can't help you there. Excuse me. H is for hot. If you are in the Northern Hemisphere, how are you coping with the heat? Well, to be perfectly honest, it's not that terribly hot here in Central Texas. For the past several weeks to almost a month, Central Texas has been markedly cooler than average. We should have had at least one 100-degree day by now, and we haven't. Right now, we are in the mid to upper 80s, with maybe 1 or 2 90-degree days forecasted here and there over the next 10 days. And it's not going to be until later in July that we'll get back to our seasonal norms, I think. So it's been rather comfortable, but how we deal with the heat is we use the air conditioner because we do live in Texas and it is on the average hot. Usually we have about a month, if not more, of 100-degree days. And sometimes those 100-degree days can be pretty dang hot. Though only ones reaching the ridiculous levels that it has been reaching in some parts of the Pacific Northwest and British Columbia. I only can remember like 114-degree day, but yeah. So we pretty much have the air conditioner on quite a bit. H is for Hunger Games. Do you prefer the Hunger Games or Harry Potter? Well, I've already mentioned how much I despise Harry Potter, but I've never read the Hunger Games, and I have no intention to because I do not like dystopic fiction. That point was made abundantly clear when I had a go at Docile this past week. I cannot stand dystopic fiction. And if I could go back and change my answer to the G-Tags genre question, I think of all of the genres I could do without. Dystopic fiction is definitely one of them. I'm no fan of dystopic fiction at all. So, once again, a pox on both of them. H is for honey. Pooh was addicted to honey. What is your sweet addiction? So, by Pooh, we're talking about Winnie the Pooh. This stuffed bear created by A.A. Milne from his child Christopher Robin's sort of toy collection. And Winnie the Pooh kind of took off, not only as a literary character, but more famously as a movie and television character through Disney. There was, I think, in the 60s, film version, and then there was a television series in the late 80s or early 90s. And Winnie the Pooh is infamous for his addiction to honey. My sweet addiction is to Hershey's Kisses. I'm rather too addicted to Hershey's Kisses. Yeah. And to sweets in general. I do have a pretty marked sweet tooth. Always when I'm looking through my cookbooks, I am gravitating to the desserts, even though not the healthiest things to eat by a long shot. H is for the Handmaid's Tale. If you've read the book, what did you think of it? I only made it 2 or 3 pages, and I hated it. Again, the whole, I hate dystopia. I don't like dystopic fiction. And The Handmaid's Tale is one of the premier examples of dystopic fiction from the late 20th century, and yeah, I hated it. So I bailed within a few paragraphs of starting it. Personally, I think the only book by Margaret Atwood that I actually like, well, novel, is The Robber Bride, which is about a group of friends who have been plagued by this one, sometime friend, sometime enemy, over the course of, 20 years. Like, she'd enter their lives and wreck it. And then she'd go away again, and then she'd come back, this time targeting one of the other friends, and then the pattern repeats. And I like that. I mean, that's the only book by her, or novel by Margaret Atwood, that I actually like. Everything else I've read, I've either bailed on or didn't get on with. And The Handmaid's Tale is the one that I've gotten on the least with. I hate it. H is for Hopper. What are your thoughts on the work of Edward Hopper, the American painter? Well, I've seen of his work on Wikipedia. I quite like it. It's pretty good. Maybe a little flat. I think particularly the figure work, I think, is maybe a little too either stylized or too flat. But on the whole, I quite like how the paintings are designed. So yeah. So if you would like, so that concludes the H tag. If you would like to do this tag, consider yourselves tagged. And I will see you Thursday with either another tag video or another video. And then, of course, there will be weekly reads. So until then, BookTube, thank you. Have a great afternoon and stay safe.